I feel like, because I am his younger brother, every great general who sits at a table with his staff needs that one fearless guy with him. You know, he needs people who preach prudence and being careful, and we have those people, believe me. They're very, very loud in our ears every single day since getting out of jail. But, you know, if you're a great samurai general and you're sitting around the table, you also need that one guy who says, okay, there's 10,000 of them, there's 5 of us, okay, let's just go. It's more fearlessness than not giving a fuck. If I had played things my way since getting out of jail, me and Andrew would probably be back in jail right now. I'm censoring myself on this podcast, but the first day I got out, I thought, you know what, screw it, let me just put a camera on, just tell the whole world what's going on, let them take me away live on stream. That's me. So luckily he keeps me in check, but also I feel like I can inspire him to make a few bolder and braver decisions in life because of my counsel. So I'm very much one of his councilmen, but he does need me at the table. Without that guy, you're just gonna be a pussy, you know?
Have you always played the number 2 role?
You know what, I don't feel it's necessarily like that. I feel it's more that I know what his strengths are, and I'm there to compensate for his weaknesses. He knows what my strengths are, and I'm there to compensate for his weaknesses. So who's the leader and who's not all depends on the situation that we're in. Certainly me and Andrew have been a team a very long time, and we made a lot of money before we ever blew up on the internet. Our relationship was a lot more equal then, but Andrew is the famous one. I'm fully aware that he's the guy who will go in front of the camera and say the types of things or voice his opinions in a way that garner infamy and fame. And I've blown up alongside him. With what we're doing now, Andrew's certainly the face of it. But he wanted to build this. This was never my intention. I thought, okay, you're gonna make some money on the internet, that's cool, Andrew, you do that. I'll continue doing what, in fact, I'm gonna interject with another story. There was a time when me and Andrew could barely pay the rent. He was training and he was fighting full time. He was kickboxing, one-time world champion, I think, at the time. And I was selling windows. Now, I'm a great salesman, so I was bringing home 1,000 plus British pounds per week. He didn't tell you this.
No, he said it was a window
sale.
He said
he sold windows, not the one you bring in.
But he didn't say he was balling out, making 1,000 a week.
No, I mean, that's not balling out. I think these 3 glasses of whiskey cost about $1,000. But I was making about 1,000 British pounds a week. Andrew had a previous sales experience. I was at the time working in sales, and Andrew was just living off his fight money. So I would come home every day. I say, I made this much sales, etc. I'll pay the rent. You keep fighting, because I was helping to support his kickboxing career. One day, Andrew looks at me and he says, you know what, Tristan, I'm just going to start selling for the same company you're selling for. We can bring $2,000-$3,000 into the house a week. We'll have a good life. We'll make money. And I said, Andrew, no, you can't do that. You can't do that, because if you are spending all your time chasing sales leads and knocking on people's doors like I am, then you're never going to find the time to discover something better, to discover something that's going to take us out of this crappy apartment. It's going to take us out of this crappy life. So even back then, when I was willing to work away selling windows instead of kickbox, because I got paid almost nothing. I was the European champion at my height. My most I've ever got paid was $1,000 a fight. I knew that wasn't a financially viable option for me. I was willing to sell windows to let Andrew continue to have time to train, but also have time to think. So now, everyone's like, oh, well, he's the face of this online persona, and you guys make a lot of money for it. I'm like, I'm fine behind the scenes. I'm perfectly happy. I'm not missing anything from my life with my 2 million Twitter followers. I need 6.8 million to fulfill. People will often try to, I guess, pit me against Andrew, which is the stupidest idea in the world. But they'll say stupid things to me like, your brother's more famous than you. And I'll say, yeah, my brother's more famous than you. Like, well, what's the big deal? If your brother or Mike Tyson, for example, and someone said your brother's better boxing, you'd be like, yeah, my brother's Mike Tyson. It's this strange type of jealousy and envy that I think a lot of men can't cope with, that makes them drag each other down like crabs in a bucket. If my brother became, a billionaire, the world's richest man, and I had to stay at this level, I'd be like, yeah, my brother's the world's richest man. I'd be proud of him. And I don't see anything wrong with that. It's not a competition. We're a team. That's my father. My father didn't have a brother or another guy in his life who were close like me and Andrew. I think it's something that happened organically. And it's not so much competition against each other in terms of what I can do and he can. It's more like, how much am I going to contribute to the team that you don't? So a perfect example, this house is set up literally perfect for it. I'll come down in the morning, 7 a.m. Andrew's at his laptop. We'll go there's an exercise we hate doing. We put 30 kilograms on a burpee bar, on a weight bar. You do a burpee, lift it above your head, and you do it 150 times. It's tiring, it's horrible. So I'll do them and I'll say, Andrew, you're a pussy. Why haven't you done them yet? Then he'll do them. And then I'll go do them again, just because. I know if I do them, he has to do them. That's not, people can see it as two men competing against each other, or you can see it as two men within the same house getting stronger and pushing each other to become stronger. When we're racing around racetracks, we're both, I guess, professionally trained drivers. We have lots of track experience, lots of road experience. The fact that he will drive faster than me will inspire me to do better in myself. Then me and my brother as a team are better drivers. It's not two men competing against each other. It's us against the world, but that's something that happened very organically. And he's always been the better kickboxer. I'm bigger maybe I'm probably fatter, but I've certainly got muscle as well. But people see me smash the pads, and amateurs, like a girl I knew once said, "Oh wow, you hit the pads so hard. Can you beat Andrew in a fight?" I'm like, no. When I try to punch Andrew, I punch nothing. I hit air, and he ends up counter punching. So he's always been the better kickboxer. But I can take that and be like, you know what? Good. He's the 4-time world champion. Good. That's my brother. And just be proud. It's us against the world.
So that wasn't Pops. That was more you guys.
Yeah, it was us. It wasn't anything my father naturally instilled. I mean, he certainly wouldn't let us fight and argue with each other. He had some unconventional punishments. If we were ever arguing, he'd lock us in a cupboard together, just sit there staring at each other.
He told us that story.
Just
sitting
there we go.
Staring
That
at
way,
each other
that
for
way,
hours
that way,
on end.
that way, you know it's true.
When you're sitting staring at your brother because you guys were acting up and fighting or whatever, you might want to implement this for Dylan and Tico. Boys see
do
this.
it works.
You're staring at each other.
Yeah.
What did you learn about your brother at that point?
What do you realize? That the conflict has no benefit. You're going to end up standing in that cupboard. That's the payoff for your conflict. There's no victory competing against your brother. And we grew up in Luton as a huge Asian diaspora, I guess. Lots of Indians, lots of Pakistanis, lots of Sikhs, lots of Muslims. And these people work as a team. It's one of the reasons they outcompete British people, native British people, on almost every single metric. And we knew a guy named Bali. I hope Andrew hasn't told you this.
No.
So he was a lawyer, probably £50,000 a year, and he drove a $400,000 Ferrari, a £400,000 Ferrari, and a £500,000 Rolls Royce sometimes. And we were saying, like, do you think Bali's a drug dealer? What do you think he's up to? And me and Andrew at the time, had quite a close brotherhood. And he looked at us one day. I said, Bali, how do you have all this money? How do you get these fancy cars when you're just a lawyer? And you're relatively young. He was like 26, 27, about 5 or 6 years older than I was at the time. And Bali's exact answer was, I remember he said, "You white people are stupid." Now, I'm mixed race. He wasn't talking anything racial. He was talking about, I guess, native British people. He says, you will have 5 sons, or your father may have 5 sons, which for someone in my culture, he was a Sikh, an Indian Sikh from Punjab. He said, that's a jackpot. And this Englishman's 5 sons will all move out of the family home. They'll pay 5 rents, probably to people like me. They'll take 5 different student debts out, go out 5 different career paths. They'll get 5 different mortgages, marry 5 different women, and never see each other again. You see, my father had 5 sons. Now I'm a lawyer. My brother's a dentist. My father's an engineer. My other brother owns a construction company. And every single skill set that they needed to flourish was within the household. So we all live in the family home. We pool our resources. Our women work together and prepare food for us. We work. And every time that we have new children or the family is expanded, we just expand the house. My brother owns a construction company. And that way, as a group, we have 3 Toyotas, 1 Ferrari, and 1 Rolls Royce. And we can all use them anytime we like. And that was what introduced me and Andrew, because we were flat broke at the time. We had nothing to share. To the idea of certainly, you know what, if we can buy a supercar together, one nice car, then we can just share that car. And now, thanks to his car addiction, we have, 40 plus, minus the 10 or 11 that have been temporarily seized by the Romanian government. But it introduced us, I guess, to the concept of pooling your resources and sharing. And you know what? He's 100% right. That is a lesson you can learn from the Indians, from the Pakistanis, because it's benefited us massively. When you're a high net worth individual, the way things are owned is very tricky. No high net worth individual has everything in his name. Let's just put it that way. But it's complicated the way things are owned. So sometimes people will ask me, there'll be 5 cars on the drive, and girls especially who are naive to these things will be like, which ones are yours and which ones are Andrew's? My honest answer is I don't actually know. I have to look at the papers to work out exactly what, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The keys are in this box in that room, and we can drive them whenever we like. And we never argue because there's so many. And when you build that abundance and you build yourself to the level of wealth me and Andrew are at, what are we going to argue about? There were times when we were kickboxing where we didn't have money for food. We used to eat cans of sardines. And there have been times splitting our last can over plain rice. So now people are like, oh, it's weird that you share a house with your brother. I'm like, it's weird that you don't. You know, I used to share my last can of food with him, and now we can't live in the same house. I've got 9 bedrooms. It's not like we're cramped for space. And otherwise, we just live in 2 separate houses with 4.5 bedrooms each, and drive to each other's houses every day. It wouldn't make sense.
There's got to be 100% trust for this to work.
Oh, 100%.
Which is what you guys have.
But me and Andrew have a 100%.
Very obvious.
Yeah,
Very
100%
obvious.
trust. Andrew is the hardest working man I've ever met. Even with the lifestyle he lives now, and as fun as it looks, and it is fun, and all the fun shit we do is real. Even if we are in a luxury hotel in the south of France where you're paying $10,000 per room, Andrew will be up at 7 o'clock in that hotel gym. He'll message me at 8:30 after wake up next to God knows who. Whiskey spilled all over the desk. But again, that inspires me. And he'll be like, emergency meeting in my room, emergency meeting, we always say that. So I'll go to his room. So
the whole world is
what's the
aware of these
emergency?
emergency
And he'll
meetings.
bring up tiny issues with the business that, you know, I could have slept on quite happily. But again, it's like me doing the exercise when he won't. It pushes me to be a better person. And Andrew will happily work 15, 16 hours a day and then go out and spend 4 or 5 hours having fun and blowing loads of money. It doesn't come from the sky. It's not magic. We're not trust fund kids. We didn't win the lottery. He is the hardest working man I have ever met. And the fact that I can even live with him and try to keep up is a testament to me, because it's difficult, you know?
Because it's constant.
Yeah, and people don't see the work. People don't see the work. I mean, me and Andrew, we're in good shape. I don't post training videos and, you know, fitness progress videos. I just do the work and let the results speak for itself. In terms of money and in terms of business and success, that's Andrew. Everyone's like, oh, well, how does he have all this money? Maybe he's a criminal, you know? So how does he have all this money? I know why he has all this money. Because he's sitting right there at that desk at least 10 hours a day, even when we're not on house arrest. He'll be out in the evenings having his fun. And that's what we'll show to the world. This whole, hey, look at me, I'm at my laptop and I'm gonna grind away for 6 hours. Like, no one wants to see that on Instagram. No one wants to see that on social media. It's boring. They wanna see you driving the Bugatti with a cigar in your mouth and a beautiful girl next to you. But that doesn't come without sitting at that desk for a good while first.